Hello and welcome to another episode of Gravitated Arts, the podcast. I'm grateful for today to be here right now. As you can see, Jasmine is here with me. This is the first episode where it's no longer just you hear the voices in the background and there's like a picture or something, but this is an in-person interview. So I just wanted to say thank you to Jasmine.
Thanks.
Do you want to just say hello?
Yeah, my name's Jasmine Anessa, and likewise I want to say thanks to Leo for not only inviting me but bringing me here to his studio. It was really cool to talk to him beforehand, see his space and his work and seeing it all come together.
Thank you for that.
Thank you, yeah.
To start off, I just wanted to start with last month you had an event, Beauty with a Purpose.
Yeah.
Do you want to just talk about how that went, how that started, and then the whole experience of how you think it went?
Yeah. So Beauty with a Purpose started the event because myself and the co-founder Jessica Lane, we were state finalists in Miss World Australia, and there was an initiative to get amongst involvement with a chosen charity, Variety the Children's Charity. And pretty much for me, my personal story was like, I was going to these volunteering events and like, I felt like my participation on the day wasn't enough. Like I would go and I'd hang out with these kids and I'd support them and I'd help in like the background behind the scenes. But it was like these sporadic and occasional like days of assistance, like once every couple of months. Like I felt like there was more I could be doing. So me and Jessica, we both are involved with Gold Coast Fashion Project, and then we came together and we were like, what can we do to really boost our involvement with this charity? So then we brainstormed with Gold Coast Fashion Project, and then we decided to host a fashion fundraiser runway, and then it went really well. It was April 16th. We had a large amount of like photographers, like a creative team. We had like the French Beauty Academy, we had professional hairstylists like who had been working overseas for years, and like they came to support us. We had photographers, professional videographer teams, models, like the whole bang. So they all came. It was a success. We raised a good amount of funds. We sent that off to the charity. It's going to be used for children now. Like just the experience as a whole, not only supporting the charity, but to have like that feather in your cap for event management and progressing myself personally, that was like another achievement as well. But it went really well.
Yeah. I remember going to that event, and for me personally it was like my first time going to a fashion event. And so prior to that I'd seen fashion on YouTube but like going to it in person felt nice. The environment was nice. I think you guys did a wonderful job. Like just being able to have known and be in the room while it was happening was a wonderful feeling, because it's like, this is something I knew about from afar, like fashion, but then to be in the presence of fashion, to be in the presence of the event was like mind-blowing. And it was like, I think it was a good thing too, because like it's an opener into something different, in the sense that not only do you just see something different, but like you're brought into a different world almost. So yeah, I just wanted to say thank you to you for that event. And
thanks.
When you reflect back on that, would it be fair in saying that you see yourself doing more of that in the future? Or
yeah, I would love to. Yeah, we've had a lot of response asking. People actually just assume that it's an ongoing event that we've established and we'll be doing it annually. It was initially decided to just be a one-time thing, that now we're reconsidering, so we might like do it again. But yeah, we had like a lot of the same feedback. Like it was the first time that people had that experience or been in an environment like that. They're not familiar, or they don't know people who are in the industry. So it was really cool to be able to give that experience to people. It's kind of like how we're not only giving an experience to the attendees to be there and witness it, but we're also, what we tried to do was incorporate inclusivity and like experience with like the team back of house. Like we had interns, not just people who were already professional.
Yeah.
And then I guess you could say as a result, we're also giving experiences to the kids too. Yeah.
100%. That's nice.
Yeah.
I just wanted to go now into your life.
Yes.
Going back to your childhood.
Yeah.
What was that like?
My childhood was interesting. I don't remember much of it. I feel like when you're a kid, your life feels like it's going on for so long. You're like, I can't wait to hurry up and be an adult.
Yeah.
And then sometimes when you get to adulthood, you're like, I just want to be a kid again. But my childhood felt like it went quick, looking back now. Yeah. I feel like I was alone a lot of the time. I had a lot of quality time with my brothers. They were like pretty cornerstones of my childhood. It would always be like climbing trees or coming up with some quick schemes or something to entertain ourselves. Yeah.
What would school? How would you describe that experience for yourself? Like
School?
Yeah.
I went to a lot of schools. I would say like 7 schools off the top of my head, but I don't remember. I'd
All
have
primary or like
to count them.
all of your schooling?
Throughout all of them, yeah. So I went to a few, like 3 or 4 primary schools, and then a couple high schools, and then also a Christian college, which was an experience in itself. Yeah, but school was mixed. I feel like everyone has an experience with bullying. I definitely did, hence having to move schooling.
Yeah.
And like chopping and changing schools. But yeah.
Is there an age or a grade where the bullying was like had lessened, or like you had I don't know, in a way overcome that experience? Or
Yeah, I was actually talking about this last night to one of my friends. That's ironic. I feel like from grade 2 to grade 10 it was just like this ongoing thing, and then I feel like year 11 and year 12 was really where I developed like the sense of self and like self-awareness and competence and confidence in myself. That not only did it not really happen anymore, but whatever was happening, it wasn't like even on my radar anymore to even care about it. Yeah.
And then when you stopped caring about it, what was the approach you had going into school?
It was just instant. Like I didn't do anything. It was just something that like switched. And then I guess my focus was elsewhere, because by year 11 and 12 I had started working and I was going to TAFE as well. So I think maybe actually something that contributed to maybe like my distraction from the bullying was what I was doing outside of school. So I was keeping busy. I was at TAFE studying 2 courses, and then I was working 2 jobs, 3 jobs at one point, just to keep myself busy and like entertained, because school is just like you wake up, you go to school, and it's so repetitive. So the juxtaposition of having work and like different experiences outside of school, like I feel like that freshened up that time, the last couple of years.
Your experiences with TAFE, was that to escape what was going on at school, or was it more career orientated?
Definitely career and curiosity oriented. I feel like something switched as well. I feel like I may have unconsciously been influenced by people doing things with their life, and I think that's where like my passion for like doing projects or being involved in things started. I would have to contribute a little bit of that to my brothers as well, because when I was in high school, they were in uni, so they were good role models of like next steps outside of school. But yeah, definitely it was, the motive behind it was to start like developing myself and doing something with myself.
What were you studying when you were going to TAFE?
So I did cookery and like culinary courses, and then just like kitchen operations and like hospitality and tourism stuff.
Yeah. Speaking earlier, you mentioned like how you love the kitchen and cooking.
Yeah.
Was that thanks to? I know you mentioned your mom influencing that. Was that TAFE and your mom, or was there one over the other? Or
no, it's definitely my mom.
Yeah.
When I went to TAFE, I was really good at like all of the basic things already, so I think I should have gone to like a more advanced cookery class, because the teacher came around and he was like, "Have you done this before?"
Yeah.
And I was like, some of the things I had actually like never done before, but I think it was just like my familiarity with the tools. Like I knew how to hold a knife and like how to cut things.
Yeah.
Like I have a memory of us like julienning a carrot, and I just did it perfectly, and everyone was like, "What are we doing?" Or like deboning a chicken, like a raw chicken, or making creme brulee from scratch. And I was just able to whiz through the recipes, and he was like, "What are you doing here? Like, you don't need to learn, you know what you're doing already." I would say definitely it's thanks to my mom. Like I started cooking in the kitchen when I was like 7, and it started with like Ukrainian soups and like traditional recipes. So yeah, definitely thanks to my mom.
2 things right there. Firstly, was that becoming a chef ever in your picture, or like?
Yeah, it definitely was. I don't know, looking back, I don't remember how serious, but it was always like one of those things that I considered. Yeah, I feel like I didn't pursue that because it seemed like a lot of physical intensity and labor, and like a lot going in and not much coming back.
Oh,
yeah,
that's pretty fair. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then the other thing I wanted to ask you was, you mentioned Ukrainian.
Yeah.
Your background. Could you speak a bit about that? Because I know you're not in a bad way, but from the outside I could see you and say you're Australian, but you're not just Australian. You have Ukrainian. And did you want to speak about your background?
Yeah. So I'm half Ukrainian. It's a very light amount of culture that I carry with me. I feel like an emotional like connection to Ukraine though, because my mum's obviously from there, so I feel like spiritually at one point I was there as well, because I came from my mum and she originated from there. And like that's like her blood, breath and soil, like that's where she came from. But yeah, I feel really like happy for her to have like shared that culture with me coming here like 30 years later. And I've got like all these recipes and like the language, and just having that. It's nice to have a different like perspective to life, and through a different lens.
Like how you put that. What would be a memory from your childhood that you hold on to, or that stands out to you when you think of your childhood?
From childhood, okay. Let me think. Since we were just talking about cooking, that's what's fresh in my mind. It would probably be like cooking semolina porridge, or cutting like mangoes and freezing them.
Cutting mangoes and freezing
them. So random. Yeah, it's like a healthy lolly.
Yeah.
Like you cut mangoes,
I know. Yeah.
And you put it in a bag and just freeze it in the fridge, and you just snack on it when it's like half frozen.
Yeah.
And it's like a treat. Yeah. So cooking, or like borscht, like a Russian soup. I think cooking's pretty like profound. Yeah.
You touched on it a bit before, but how would you describe young Jasmine?
Young Jasmine. Yeah, I think I was quiet, very observant. I was just there. Like I didn't have a very developed sense of self until a little bit later on. I was kind of, looking back, I feel like I was just a product of like the environment, just being. I was a bit cheeky. Just exploring and like just learning, just looking, listening and learning.
Wow. When you go to the cheekiness, was that because you have kids that like can be cheeky but they hide it, but then there's a cheeky that gets caught. Where did you sit with your cheekiness? And was it at school or was it at home?
It was at home. I always got caught. Yeah.
Did that force you to like? When did you realize like, you know what, this cheekiness thing isn't working for me, like, and switch?
Yeah, it's like if you get punished enough times, you're like, I'm sick of this. I'm gonna learn my lesson now. Yeah. It didn't last very long.
Currently, you work in a government role. You know, again, speaking earlier, you've been promoted in your role. Congrats to you.
Thank you.
Do you want to just talk about like the role and like how you got into that?
I can't say too much about the role because it is
confidential.
Stuff. Yeah. But before even the topic of getting the role, I knew at some point government work interested me. I had no idea so early on in my professional career that I would be working in government. I thought I had to go back to TAFE and study like a diploma of government or something. But yeah, I applied during the peak of COVID, so the application process was pretty like relaxed. Yeah, they pretty much called me. I spoke with one of the lawyers from a company that was hired to outsource applicants, and then went through like a screening process, and then we came in, we had orientation, and then like just that was how it started. My role's pretty good. We worked throughout COVID, through like the pandemic, with victims of like the floods, fires. It's ongoing, but yeah, it's my early part of the career was assisting with like where the agency demand was. But now I've kind of broadbanded to like a higher role of more of like support. So now my focus is like helping people who were in like where I were. Yeah.
In a way, you're now like a mentor, supervisor to the mentee. Yeah. How have you found that experience from being the one being trained, now you're doing the training? Yeah,
it's really fulfilling on a personal level, and then also just to be able to identify the learning needs and like learning about people and how they operate, and being able to cater the content like that they're consuming and interpret it or get them to comprehend it like in their own way so that it's actually beneficial for them. So that's really rewarding in itself. I think just having the experience to like further progress, like it's exciting. So those 2 points, I'd say.
One more about the role, working with people and constantly learning about people. What are some things that you've learnt or observed from working with people that you may not have known prior to your role?
I think particularly in the support role, I mentioned this in our chat earlier, how people, like when you're helping them, sometimes it could be a matter of interpreting or like, interpreting the content that they're looking at or the legislation and policies. Because sometimes the way it's written, it's not really, like it can be a bit convoluted and you can't comprehend it properly. So it could be like a fact of that, or it could be like from like a cultural background, or maybe like their focus really isn't there, or they're not really committed to like, they don't have a good understanding, so they've kind of like given up on focusing or like paying attention, and they're just kind of in limbo land feeling lost. So I think working with people and being able to like figure out which one is like applicable to them, or it could be like other things too that like I've yet to discover, but applying that and helping them, I feel just learning about different aspects of people, I feel has been rewarding.
Just to step a bit away from the work, in life, what would you say is like one of the hardest lessons you've had to learn, or like an important lesson you've had to learn?
In life, what's a hard lesson? I think that no one is coming to help you or like no one is coming to push you or support you. For my case anyway, because I have a small like a small, close-knit social circle. A lot of people have large families and they have really established support networks.
Yeah.
So growing up, that's not something I had. I don't have an auntie or a cousin that I can go to and be like, what do you think I should do? Or like, what would you do? Or like, can you help me? It's like a very small circle that you can ask for support for. I think that's what, that'd be my answer. Like, it's kind of on you to like figure out your path and like make the progress and stay on track to get there. Yeah.
I think something I admire and respect about you is how you're very into personal growth and books, reading. What got you into that? Like,
into reading?
Yeah. Or personal growth, or like
being
conscious about, because to me, like, the way I see how you are, you're thinking ahead. You're present, but you're thinking about 5 years from now, 10 years from now.
Yeah.
So when did that whole concept start? And like,
I think growing up and just being alone, I had a lot of time in my own mind. So even though I was a little bit like lacking in self-awareness, I feel like I was ahead with like getting to know myself. So I think, wait, can you rephrase the last part of your question?
What got you into the being fixated more on the 5 years from now Jasmine instead of just
I think just like always being in my head and always having thoughts of like what I wanted to do or where I was going from a younger age. I feel like there was a sprout of it there earlier, and then I feel like I saw myself doing or having a little bit more experiences than other people were doing, like at school, because I was like working and people at school at my age weren't working. So I feel like just the excitement and like the experiences I was having and opportunities and things I was doing, like I was always thinking, what's next? Like, what can I do now? So I'm always looking for what else I can do or what else I can be involved in.
From your personal growth, knowing what you know now, what could you pass on to a younger person out there?
A younger person? I think just believe in yourself, and as long as you have good intentions and you know what you're doing is in good nature and in good faith, like don't let someone else's judgment affect your decisions or how you feel about things. If you're confident and grounded in what you're doing, like stay true to yourself, because their mission, I think Steve Harvey actually said this. He said, God didn't give your vision to them, he gave it to you. So if that's what you if that's what you see and that's what you want to happen, you go for it.
I love that. Again, speaking about what you know now, having gone through the bullying and those years, the difficult years in school, what could you pass on to maybe a young girl or a young kid out there going through similar things that you would have had to experience?
I remember sitting in the principal's office and
in trouble or
talking about bullying. I wasn't a bully.
I
was getting bullied, and they had no advice for me. They just told me to be resilient, and I was a bit sour at that advice, but it does resonate the older I get. Like as a kid, there's only so much you can do. It does develop character and it does develop your resilience, but my advice would be like, it's similar to what I said before, like focus on being a good person and like just try to be well-rounded and good in nature, and if bullying comes your way, just take it with a grain of salt.
I think we spoke about this last time, but you know, sometimes it seems a lot of times in the world, women, for them to be noticed, they have to, when I use sports as an example, a woman has to win first place or a woman has to win a championship in order for her to be acknowledged by the media. As a woman, how does that play out to you? You know, being in your shoes and you see the world and you see that, for example, a man might get more attention and praise for something, but you know that there's a woman doing that, but they're not being spoken of. As a woman, how does that sit with you? Like when you see that, like men do this,
like the
inequality. Big praise, yeah, equality and things like that. Yeah,
yeah. Honestly, don't have much of a perspective on it. I feel like it's definitely something that I see that's happening and it's going on, but I feel like as a collective, like the community and the world they're nipping that and they see it happening and they're already working together. But personally, like I've just been like doing my own thing and just like working hard. So yeah, I feel like I've been fortunate. I don't really compare myself to other people who might be in a more privileged position. I just work with what I have.
Yeah.
So I haven't had the acknowledgement of like this person, like maybe age or gender, if you're looking at that, has like they're doing the same as me, but they're getting better outcomes. Like I don't really think in terms like that. So it's not something that I put too much like time or energy into.
Okay.
Yeah, but I think as a collective, it's definitely happening and it's definitely a problem. Yeah, especially like overseas in other countries, like the inequality. Yeah, but I think it's being worked on.
You touched on it before, you know, having like a small circle around you. You know, in life, it's important those you surround yourself with, you know. And for yourself, what has the world taught you about people? And I know you work with people, so not just in the work context, but like friendships, things like that.
People are so interesting. Like going back to again observing people, like people are just so interesting. They're so different. They're so multi-dimensional. They're so complex. They're so individual and so unique. Like.
Before going any further, I just wanted to shout out Cholius Banger, who created the theme song for the podcast. This is just a snippet of his track.
Gravity, ayy, gravity, lay, gravity, hey, gravitated all.
If you haven't already, give the song a play.
I guess the whole traveling. Yeah. These recent like travels that you've been doing, is that like your first time traveling alone or like? How has that been? Like I remember my first time going to Melbourne by myself. It was like I used to think that traveling was like this big scary thing.
Same.
But then when I did it, it was like, what was I scared of? Like, what was your experience? Like, how did you feel when you were getting the ticket, going on the plane, getting public transport?
I feel like I have the same kind of thought, but also an element of I didn't have a reason at the destination to be there. Yeah. So it seemed a bit meaningless to just get on a plane and go. But after I went with some friends and we did lots of exploring, I realised just how much I actually enjoyed it. And so I keep going back and I keep going to different places. I always get really excited when I book the tickets. Yeah. And I get annoyed when I have to pay for extra baggage to keep overpacking. It's a habit. Yeah. And I always get really happy as the plane is like leaving the strip. Like that's that peak moment where you're like, like you're embracing what's to come. Yeah.
When you're traveling, are you like the pictures person or like, no, I got to be present, no pictures, or
like me taking pictures?
Yeah.
I love taking photos. Yeah. I need to buy like a professional camera. I take lots of photos, but I don't go back and look at them or I don't do anything with them. Videos though, I'll like make little clips with them or like I'll go back and watch them. I feel like it's more like it brings me back to the moment more because I'm watching it happen rather than just a still photo. But yeah, I still like to be as present, but having the videos for later on, I like to capture them and so I can remember them.
So earlier I had asked you, how would you describe young Jazz? How would you describe yourself today?
So I'm still observant like I was as a child, but now I'm definitely more like involved in altruism. Like it's something that I value and I incorporate into my days more. Yeah. Looking out for other people just because like you don't need to have an expectation or a reason behind it. I'd say I have more depth in character from all the experiences that I've been on and all the opportunities that I've had so far. I'm more loving. Yeah, especially towards my cat.
Yeah.
Love my cat. Still observant. I think the difference now is that just from like the reading and from those experiences, I've just developed who I am more, and now I'm more extroverted to counteract the introversion that I had when I was younger. Yeah.
It's very interesting. When you go to would you say where did that spark your means to be more loving? Where did that come from? Because like people become something, but something triggers it or something makes that happen.
I think it was the content that I was consuming, or seeing that character and that trait in other people, like inspired me to want to be that kind of person as well. Like sometimes it's the fact of like, if you don't know, you don't know, or if you don't see it, you don't necessarily have that in you to be that way. So I think I admire people being humble and people being respectful and people especially being altruistic. So seeing that in other people like draws me to want to be like that as well.
And then I think something that comes to mind within what you're saying is like, with the world we live in, there's so much that gets pushed in our faces. How do you, I guess, organize yourself and make sure to not intake the wrong thing,
like my example with Chanel? I think be mindful and have intention. I think it starts with your mindset. So if you can work out your mind and work out what your values are and what your beliefs are, and create like a system in your mind around that, like you'll develop a sense of self where you don't let things rub off on you, or you don't let information that doesn't align with you dictate how you act or how you are. So I think it starts with investing in yourself first.
That's powerful what you mentioned about how like the values and like knowing yourself. Being as young as you are, what age did that spark to you, like to be mindful of your own values?
Yeah, it definitely was something more recent, I'd say. I'm 22 now. I'd say maybe 19. Yeah. I think mindset was like a whole... It started when I started going to the gym. And I think that discipline really develops and translates into like mindset. And once you... For me, it was the pathway of learning physical discipline. And then that translated into mental discipline, and then that unlocked like the whole side of mindset.
The point, another question that comes to mind from what you just mentioned about the gym. And speaking about mindsets, when you would have started going to the gym, something that happens with everyone is your mind plays this game of like the comparison game. So how did you keep yourself going in discipline while being mindful of, like, for example, say you go to the gym and you see other women and then you compare yourself. How did you deal with that kind of negative mind?
I honestly didn't have that very much. I would see them as role models and examples. I would look up to them and be like, especially when you see them frequently, you see the consistency and you take that on board as like, you want to be like them. You don't think like, I wish I was them. You take it on like, oh, I will be like them. And I think when I started training in the gym, especially with developing my discipline, I started with a personal trainer straight away because I didn't want to go down the path of like just watching and doing whatever I saw without any knowledge or science behind it. So I got a PT straight away, and then it was good to get a PT because that sorted out like the accountability side, because then I know someone else is relying on me to come to the gym, so they have a job to do. Like looking, I never had like the jealousy trait of like the comparison, because you have that quote, like everyone's heard it, comparison is a thief of joy. Yeah, so don't compare yourself when you can like be alongside them soon.
Whoa.
Yeah.
Don't compare yourself when you can be alongside them soon. I like that. I wanted to speak about modeling. You do modeling, but the way you do it is actually different in the sense that freelance modeling, not agency.
Yeah.
How did that come about for you, and like, how have you found that experience?
So I feel like with modeling, I feel like this might be something that can relate to other industries as well, but you kind of have to start somewhere.
Yeah.
So I feel like every model starts out doing freelance and then they get into an agency. Freelance is good. I've had good experiences so far with everyone that I've collaborated with. And then like as I've progressed, I see like my peers get assigned to agencies, and then depending on the agency, they may have like restrictions around what they do or who they do it with.
Yeah.
So just for me to have like freedom of choice, I stay as freelance so I can have exposure to more. But it's a double-edged sword because I might have exposure to more, but I might have less exposure to some events or some collaborations that are more like exclusive that you need an agency to be with. Yeah.
Then going to like from your experience doing it freelancing, has that approached opportunities to get into agency, or like?
Yeah, I've definitely had. So one of the I wouldn't say it's rooted in freelance, but like there are workshops around that have exposure directly to agencies, like Chic Management. They are involved with Country Girl Management through CGM. So a lot of new models in Southeast Queensland or even in like Victoria go to CGM events, and then they have the opportunity to like meet someone from an agency, and if the agency like expresses interest and sees potential, like they can sign the model. But other than that, I don't think I've had any like direct exposure or like possibilities that I've known of that there's someone there from an agency. Yeah.
My next question was I think often in life you can be asked, who inspires you out there? Not celebrities, but in your life. Who are people that inspire you?
The first person that comes to mind is my brother. Yeah, both of my brothers, but I think Alex, my older brother, he definitely inspires me, like with his passion and commitment, and like seeing us grow together, and then him like just develop this whole other identity of like in a career, and then travel away and then just pursue that, and like it's really inspiring for me. So I definitely look up to him.
When you say he finds passion and then branches off, does that take him like overseas or like?
Yeah, so he not overseas, but he had his eye on this job, and it was like that thing of rejection, maybe redirection, and he kept getting no's, and he eventually applied for this position, and it's ended up like his dream job. So now he lives in a different state in Adelaide, and he's working on that, and he seems really fulfilled. He does like really important, well, to me it looks important, but he's doing like important work for his company, and he's also in like a support role as well. So not only is he doing the work, but he's helping like develop other people in their jobs.
Wonderful. Congrats, Alex. Well, again, I just wanted to thank you for this opportunity. I appreciate your time, and with everyone, it always means a lot to me when someone says yes to an interview, because people are people and people have lives, but to be able to take out X amount of minutes to speak, I appreciate that. So I just want to say thank you and best of luck with everything you're doing.
Thank you.
So good.
And you too.
Thank you.
Before checking out, I wanted to say thank you for listening. Make sure to subscribe and follow Gravitated Arts on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube, Plus, hit the notifications bell to be notified every time Gravitated Arts drops.
Did it for my team, for my peace, for my G, for who need it. Showing up on days that I couldn't see a reason. Showing up on days I would rather lay and sleeping. Showing up on days I disconnected, they connected, now we gravity, ayy, gravity, lay, gravity, hey, gravitated